This video is for Roger in Ohio. We appreciate you, Roger.
Greetings from the farm. It's Mark here at Cedar Falls Farm. I'm in my processing area. Give you a quick show around. This is where we grind beef. We used to process chickens here, and we can also process produce, sanitize before sale, following the rules that apply, the federal guidelines. And I've got the signs here on the side that just gives an overview, but we do have a certificate of exemption because we don't do that much. But today in our workshop we're going to be making some brisket burgers, and a shout out to one of our followers, our subscribers, that's been waiting on this, and this one's for you, bud, up there in Ohio, in northern Ohio. Hopefully your weather's changing up there, and you'll be able to enjoy the springtime. So I'm going to set the camera up and we'll get started here in a second. I'm going to cut this brisket up into smaller pieces, and then we will run it through our first grind and maybe go ahead and knock out the second grind. Everything's good and cold. My grinder head is actually in the freezer. That's where I leave it. I want it good and cold for processing. We're going to, I'll show you on the whiteboard real quick. I like to always write up what I'm working on. So, ground brisket burgers with bacon. We have a 12.89 pound whole brisket. I have 1 pound of bacon, but we're going to mix it with 6 pounds of brisket so we can at least have some flavor of the bacon. And I'm going to reserve 1 pound of fat that we'll be using later to make some merguez sausage, which is a North African sausage that is absolutely delicious. We'll be using lamb and some fat from our beef. I've got some other herbs I'll have to toast and grind up with the mortar and pestle, and I will detail that when we make the merguez. Really good. And we'll stuff that in lamb casings. So without further ado, let me pause and set up, and we'll get started back here in a moment. Okay, we're going to get back at it here. And I will get started cutting this up into more manageable size pieces. Also trim out, like I said, I want about 1 pound of fat. Also, before I started, just so you know, I made up a sanitizing solution with bleach and sanitized all my work surfaces. My hands are good and clean. I like to be able to feel what I'm doing, but sanitize my hands as I'm cleaning this. The sanitizing solution should be allowed to stay on the surfaces for at least 4 minutes, I believe it is. It's best to let everything dry. In doing that, you will make sure that the surfaces are indeed truly sanitized. And that was from one of the food handling courses, safe handling courses I went to. Were teaching us about that. And I actually have some strips I can use to know if I have the right mixture. Make sure I get enough of this cut off. Try to strike a balance between my brisket burgers and the merguez I'm wanting to make. And sometimes you'll have too much fat in your brisket burgers, and I've had to add other cuts of beef in, a more lean cut. I'm hoping this processing will go very quickly because it's not a lot. This is about half of what I do when I make a batch of sausage, which we're getting ready to take a quick camping trip. And I was hoping to have my sausage made before, but I believe I'm going to make the sausage as soon as I get back. Good looking beef. Also, before I start, I always make sure I have a good sharp knife. And I do have my steel that I use. Every once in a while I have to stop and sharpen if I don't have 2 or 3 knives laying out. If I'm cutting a lot of meat up, I'll have several knives laid out in order to cut down on delays when I'm processing, because cold is your friend in processing meat when you're running it through a grinder. Being that I'm only doing 12 pounds here, I guess if you count the bacon, I'm doing 13 and a half or so. It won't take as long, and I'm not going to lose as much of the chill on my meat. Cutting up small enough helps 2 ways. It makes it easier to process, to go through the throat of the grinder, and it also helps get a better mix of your product, where you don't just have big separations between lean and fat. In the mixing world, they would call it a homogeneous mix. I'm going to weigh this. I have a set of scales right here on the other side of the table. I have 3/4 of a pound there, so I've got a little bit more to add to it. See if I can't cut that off right quick. This is a really dense fat too. .87. Almost there. That's a pound. So we have a pound of fat. That's all I need for my merguez. I'm just going to make a small batch of merguez. I wanted to get this made up quickly so I can take a batch camping with us. I'm going to make some hot dog chili with it and make some hamburger steaks to cook on the grill while we're camping. Okay, I'll be quiet here for a couple of minutes. I'm going to record this and then I'll speed it up and we'll pick back up when we're ready to grind. All right, let's get this grinding. First grind. So I forgot and tossed my bacon in with everything. Had to separate it back out. At least I realized before I ground it all up. Okay. All right, I'll do a quick weigh on this, and I should have about 7 pounds, and this is a 1.72 pound tub. It's 8, 2, 7, 6.5. Couple more pieces. One more. .71, so that puts me right at 7 pounds. So that would be a pound of bacon and 6 pounds of brisket. Exactly what I was looking for. And I've run more beef through the grinder, so what's in there is all beef now that's left in the process, which is good. And I'm going to do a quick separation. My separation will be a little bit of plastic wrap. One more of those. Doesn't have to be too precise. All I want to do is just try to keep a separation there. All right, so everything that's going to be on top of the plastic will be just ground brisket. We got a mosquito buzzing around in here. I've had zero waste on this brisket, by the way, none whatsoever. And when I'm finished, I will have about, should be somewhere in a range of about close to 14 pounds. Not quite, because I cut a pound out. So let's say 13 pounds of ground meat. And I'll have probably $53, $54 in it, US dollars. All right, now we're just going to reverse what we're doing, but first I have to put the smaller die in. This is a 4.5 millimeter die. That gives us our final grind. I have a pedal that I step on, and just to make sure that I don't step on this thing and get something spinning that I shouldn't. It is off. I'm just getting a couple of Ziploc bags because I am going, these are gallon size bags. The ground brisket with no seasoning in it, no bacon. I'm going to make some hot dog chili with it while we're camping, because we will have hot dogs one day. I love a good old hot dog. this one over here now. Okay. It's hard to get a grip with arthritis. I'm there. All right. Turn our switch back on. This is called a stomper. I'll probably have to use it this time. So far it's looking good. Looking good. That's the way I like to see it coming out. Looking real good. Love that fresh looking ground beef. Man, that is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. After you run through the grinder at least once, you start getting a breakdown in this, and you get a little tackiness, and it wants to stick to the sides of the throat here. That's why I'm using the stomper. When you're making, like, grinding sausage or grinding meat, you have to keep everything cool. If you don't, the fats will break down. You can see, I'm going to get a little closer here. You can see how beautiful that meat looks coming out. I mean, that really looks good. And you want it to look like that the entire time. If it starts squeezing together and almost looks like a paste, you got to stop. You need to stop what you're doing, take it apart, put your meat back into cool, and put your grinder, clean it up good, put it back into cool. It needs to go in the freezer. That'll ensure you get good grind, good quality meat, and in particular making sausage, you'll have good sausage coming out. And if you went to a grocery store and bought something that looked like a paste, you wouldn't want it. And when you're doing this, you know I buy this in a big box store, the meat, but I can tell you what I have right now. I have one brisket from one cow. It's not multiple cows, it's one. And I'm hoping that good quality controls were done where they processed in the abattoir. And hopefully it was raised well. But you have less risk of getting some bad in your meat, especially ground meat. That could be bits and pieces from a lot of cows. I mean, just look, really look how beautiful this looks. Get it in close there. This reminds me of when I was a kid. I'm 61, be 62 this year. And we'd go in the grocery store and you watch them grind meat. It'd look pretty like this. Man, there's no added waters, juices, anything in this. This is straight up ground beef here. Ground brisket. getting close to the end of the grind here. Last little bit to go in. Okay, there's a little bit left in the throat there, or in the grinding mixing chamber. That's okay. I'm going to pull this out. This is absolutely nothing but beautiful, beautiful ground brisket. This I still need to grind. We're going to run it back through now. Set this over to the side. Let's see how much I have there. 5.72, looks about right. Almost 6 pounds. I knew it'd be a little bit less. Because I recall we reserved a pound of fat. All right. Let's get this knocked out. Looking good, looking real good. You know, you can do this with any cut you want. You just need to make sure you've got an adequate amount of fat. You could use a sirloin roast, you could use a round roast, cut it up and make ground, but you're going to have to add fat. If you eat pork, you could add pork belly or something like that, or add bacon, which is pork belly. If you have some fat beef, blend it in with it. Depending on what you like. I like a lot of fat when I'm going to make a burger. Just seems to give it better flavor. I wish you could smell this with me with the bacon being ground again. You can smell that smoky flavor of the bacon. I guess I should say smoky aroma, but in my mind I can taste it. If you're still watching, do me a favor, please go in and, you know, give us a thumbs up, drop some comments, tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing where you folks are at, where you're located. You know, let's learn a little bit about each other. Make the world a little bit smaller. And this is back to my roots and my passion. I know I share a lot of different things on our farm channel. Probably should have been more active on it years ago, when I was more active in daily farm life, along with working a full-time corporate job. But this gets back to the roots of when I was a kid, and you know, people processing hogs and processing cows and being a little more self-sufficient. And you know, if you hunt, especially if you hunt deer, elk, anything like that, you can do this same kind of thing. I mean, grinding meat's grinding meat, making sausage is making sausage. Some you might want to enhance the flavors or something, but you know, it's process is all the same. You watch this, you learn something, that's cool. All right, I'm gonna throw just a few cubes of ice. I've talked about this before. You don't want to do a lot because it can break your auger in there, and you don't want to do that. And what I'm watching for now is just a little bit of liquid to come out. Shouldn't be much. I'm starting to see it right here. See that? That means we've gotten most of our processed material out. That would normally be waste. That will be ground beef now. No processed waste at all, practically. All right, the rest of this is just going to be me putting it in a package. And today I just wanted to share grinding some brisket. When I get back from the camping trip, I'll be putting that pound of fat we've reserved to good use. I'm going to definitely share an educational video, it'll be a little bit longer, on making merguez sausage. Any of you that's ever spent time in France, Spain, Portugal, or North Africa, you will know what merguez sausage is. It's a lamb sausage. I add a little beef fat to, because we don't have a lot of fat in the lamb, and gives it a good blend, a good flavor. It has harissa, it has fennel, coriander seed, just has so much stuff in it. But I'll toast all of them. I can show that as we're doing it. I'll grind it in a mortar and pestle, and we will make some of the most incredible sausages and stuff that into lamb casings. So that's going to be a wrap from Cedar Falls Farm. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. Remember, give us a thumbs up, subscribe please. We're getting so close to 500. Do me a favor, help us get over the hump. Take care everyone, love you folks.